Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad bin Abdul Wahid. My metric number is 2020761733.
My name is Muhammad Khairi Farhan bin Abdul Majid. My matrix number is 2020812994.
My name is Nur Atika binti Nik Rushdi. My metric number is 2020817964.
My name is Nurul Najra binti Mahadi and my metric number is 2020x75018.
My name is Muhammad Airi bin Zakaria and my matrix number is 2020-833-132.
Now let's begin the presentation. This presentation objectives are to give an overview of the country's population, national income, major sector contributors and debt in Australia. Besides the trends of inflation and unemployment over the past 20 years, then to explain the impact of coronavirus towards inflation and unemployment in Australia. The definition of inflation can be classified as an economic concept that refers to an increase in the price level of goods and services. For your information, the rate of inflation is measured by Consumer Price Index (CPI) data over months or years. Meanwhile, for unemployment can be defined as someone who are in the working age group, are able and willing to work but unable to find or get jobs. They are classified as the labor force of a country within the age group of 15 to 64, which excluding housewives, full-time students, and people who are sick.
So, let me start with Australia background. The population of Australia by the end of 2020 is 25,687,041%. The most population in Australia is female, which is 12,895,213%, while male population in Australia is 12,791,828%. Next is national income. National income for Australia in 2020 is 1.331 trillion US dollar. Compared to 2019, national income is 1.397 trillion US dollar. National income was decreased in 2020. Move to the main sector contributor. As we can see, the largest contributor is from service sector with 66.04% and the lowest is from agriculture with 1.9%. For national debt, I will compare between 2017 and 2020. For 2017, the national debt is 41% out of gross domestic product, which amounted around 500.979 billion US dollar. For 2020, the national debt is 43.20% out of gross domestic product, which amounted around 984.298 billion US dollar.
The highest rate in Australia was in the year of 2000 with the rate of 4.45% GDP. The reason for the inflation rate to increase during the year was because of the increase in the world oil price and the new tax system that were implemented during the year. The world oil price is increased by 60% in June 2000, leading to a higher price of petrol to almost all countries. In Australia, the petrol price is increased by 22% in June 2000. The new tax system is also the cause for prices of several items to increase during the year. During the major tax changes, things such as tobacco price, insurance price, electronic and electrical goods prices to increase and were affected during the major tax changes. To overcome inflation during its highest rate, Australia came up with monetary policy to overcome inflation. Firstly, the RBA, also known as the Reserve Bank of Australia, decided to tighten the monetary policy and comes up with the strategy of making an inflation target. The purpose of making an inflation target is to keep the consumer price balanced between 2 to 3% GDP on average. By doing this, Australia can maintain stability in price and readjust the policy to achieve the inflation target. Secondly, to control the amount of inflation during year 2000, On July 1st, the RBA, also known as the Reserve Bank of Australia, introduces a 10% tax for goods and services that are known as GST. The reason for GST to be introduced is to renew and replace the existing tax system and to stabilize Australia's economy by reducing the amount of inflation. GST was proven to be useful by anchoring the inflation expectation and bettering the price setting behavior.
So now I will explain the highest rate of unemployment and the reasons. The highest rate of unemployment in 10 years from 2009 until 2019 is 2014. It has been reported that the rate of unemployment in Australia in 2014 is 6.2%. Unemployment has risen to 770,900 people. Structural unemployment is the cause of unemployment in Australia. The highest structural unemployment rates in Australia is the person from rural areas, people with educational issues, and people over the age of 50. This is because they are having trouble to finding work. This is due to difficulties with schooling, and many of them lack work experience, lack the capacity to obtain work, lack of skills, and lack financial resources to go out and searching for jobs. Besides, employers do not provide adequate training and skill for their workers. However, many of them resign and choose to be unemployed because employers do not pay wages commensurate with their work. Furthermore, many of them retire between the ages of 50 and 55. As a result, by getting higher education certificates and beyond, younger people play a significant role in influencing their future and the country. They are less easily oppressed if they have information and knowledge can be applied to defend themselves. Next, I will continue with monetary and fiscal policies to overcome the unemployment during the highest rate. Australia solved this problem by using an expansionary fiscal policy. The Australian government has invested money in developing guarantee scheme and ensuring all citizens aged no more than 25 receive a good job upon graduation. In addition, the Australian government has provided programs that provide training and skill to those in need. Another solution is to increase skill training programs to increase productivity, as well as expand government's skill migration programs. This is because if immigration is the only policy that needs to be taken, then Australia needs to increase the level of immigration of new workers into the economy to fill that gap between 2014 to 2030. Effectively, there will be 2 until 3 million workers. The Australian government needs to find solutions to the less educated and the dropouts. If they can make them have skills, can read and write and so on, then they will be able to reduce the number of unemployed.
Now I will explain for the next point, which is impact of coronavirus on inflation and unemployment in Australia. So now, let's see the inflation chart for year 2020 and 2021. As we all know, the whole world was affected by the coronavirus, including Australia. So based on the chart above, the inflation started to increase from May 2020 to the highest of the year 2021, which in November. Meanwhile, the lowest inflation in the range of 2020 to 2021 was in May 2020. Australia faces difficult challenges as it looks beyond the coronavirus pandemic. The lower of oil and prices fuel hit Australia really hard. Inflation has risen to an all-time high and may remain so for the rest of the year. And for unemployment, as you can see in the chart above, for year 2020, the highest rate was in June and July, which remained at 7.4%. This is because in that month, the coronavirus was at peak, and as a solution, the government announced a Movement Control Order, MCO. And as a result, factories, shops, and many tourism sectors had to be closed, and due to that, many people lost their jobs. While as you can see in the chart of 2021, the highest rate for unemployment in Australia was in January, which at 6.4%. This is because there is a second wave occurs and caused the unemployment rate to be slightly higher. Meanwhile, for June, July, August, and September, the unemployment rate decreased at 4.5% and 4.9%. This is because The government has started giving vaccines to their citizens.
Now, I will continue with the impact of government stimulus package on national debt. In order to overcome the issue caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, the government has provided stimulus package. The federal government introduced $130 billion economic bailout, which includes 6-month wage subsidy scheme early in the pandemic. Furthermore, the federal government has increased the instant asset write-off by raising it to $150,000. It also been expanded to include the business with an annual turnover of less than $500 million, and it applied from 12 March 2020 until 30 June 2021. But under pre-COVID-19 circumstance, only individual assets less than $30,000 are eligible for the increase. Moreover, the Australian government has launched 3 relief packages worth around $140 billion. The first package was announced on 12 March 2020, and it contained $11.4 billion, and it was spent on the following list. The second package was announced on 22 March 2020, and it contained $43 billion. It authorized $16.5 billion in payment of up to $65,400 for small business to cover wage, and $26.1 billion to guarantee loan of up to $164,000. It also contained $590 welfare payment. Lastly, the third package was announced on 30 March 2020, and it contained $85 billion. It is a $980 payment to the employers every 2 weeks to cover the wage. As you can see, below is the chart of Australia debt evolution from 2020 to 2021. In 2021, Australia national debt reached $834 billion, up from $684.298 billion in 2020. Since coronavirus hit Australia in 2020, Australia's national debt kept increasing drastically onward. According to the most recent data available, Australia per capita debt in 2020 was $51,964, compared to 2021 was $60,057. In the nutshell, we can analyze that when the Australia unemployment rate and inflation rate started to stabilize, the COVID-19 hit the world and caused the Australia to also be affected. Starting in March 2020, the Australia unemployment rate and inflation rate began to rise sharply, and because of that, the condition of its people was also severely affected. In order to overcome this problem, the government has provided stimulus package for those burdened by the COVID-19 pandemic, and this has caused the Australia national debt to increase drastically. This proves that the government has sympathy for those burdened by the COVID-19 pandemic and more concerned about its people rather than the national debt, because their people are the main income for the country.